Welcome to Musically Meditated Podcast. This is bonus episode 51, and it is an episode that is an interview with Birds in Row. They are a post-hardcore or hardcore punk band from France, and the interesting thing about these guys is they only refer to themselves as Birds in Row. They actually don't go by their real names. They're kind of hidden. Correct, Stratton? What do you say?
Yeah, they want to be one thing.
You know, one entity, and they kind of shared with us, especially live too, that the ideology behind that's kind of old school, hardcore punk, DIY. You know, they're on the same level as their fans, and it's an old school punk ethos as well. Like the fans, the crowd, and the band are all one thing.
Right.
So to them, it's even strange now when they've been touring the States that they're on a stage and they're not in a basement or on a floor, you know, so it was something new to them.
Right.
And that's the ideology behind it. Best way they described it to me. Another thing too, we saw them at the Beat Kitchen. Stretton, what was your thoughts on Beat Kitchen? We've been there before, but
yeah, we've been there before. I like it. I like how small it is. You can fill it up fast, and the energy is always good in there. The people in there are always cool. What I was unsure of was when bands start playing, because the 2 times that I've been there, I listened to some, like, one was just a straight up rock band, and one was sort of bluesy. And the crowds were good, but they're just standing there. And we were going to see a punk show.
Right.
And so I didn't know if it was I didn't know how it was going to go. Because what was the band we saw where I was like lost? I was like somebody's dad looking for their kid in the crowd.
Oh, that was American Nightmare.
Yeah, American Nightmare.
That was your first hardcore show.
Right. And it was a totally different experience because there was a mosh ring, whatever you call it now.
Mosh pit.
But I mean, in my head, mosh pits were always like a little more dense and crazy and insane. Like it felt like a pit, like a gladiator pit where people are just getting crazy. This was like a ring. It wasn't that intense. I mean, there was a lot of space for everyone to punch, kick, dance.
Right.
But with the Birds in Row show, it was packed. Like people were shoulder to shoulder in there. It wasn't super packed, but people were shoulder to shoulder, and everybody was kind of headbanging. You know,
small, intimate setting.
Yeah, nobody was punch, kick, dancing. There was no mosh pit. There was no, and they seemed to be extremely comfortable and good.
Extremely comfortable, and like how they are just one nucleus, or just one as a band. Remember too, I thought it was pretty neat. No lights were shined on them.
Right, they lit their amps.
They lit their Yeah, they lit up their amps and their cabinets. I thought that was pretty cool. As far as tightness goes as a band, they were totally on point. It was cool to hear that guitar too, because like I mentioned in a few episodes before where we kind of dissected it and gave it a nice review. I wanted to see how those guitars would come off live, and I thought they sounded great, but especially the rhythm section of the bass and the drums, like you said too, the overdrive of the bass is just amazing.
It sounded awesome,
didn't it?
Yeah, it sounded great.
And as far as what I got from them live, it was just raw emotion is the best way I could describe them. Just very honest music, very, I don't know, passionate. What else would you say?
Very passionate.
Okay.
Very exciting. The way they moved, they seem to have a really good spatial sense. As weird as that sounds, like the bass player is a taller dude and he's very skinny, and his bass is almost as long and wide as he is, right? And the way he plays it was like, who would describe it? I guess maybe there's a Joeism in there where you could describe it as one of those like gladiator battle axes.
Yeah.
Like it was just the way he made it sound, and compared to his body, it looked like this giant 1-ton instrument. And with the sound that came out of it and the way he was like kind of not swinging it around, but he would swing his body. He would lean backwards, and it almost looked like the bass was pulling him back down to earth. Like he was like rocking, and there was no chance of him falling off the stage. But while the way he was moving, you're like,
man, I hope this guy doesn't tear an ACL.
Dude. Yeah, he was just like, it was great. It was great. And then the lead singer, intentional or not, with the lighting, like they look like 3 silhouettes. Mm-hmm. The drummer was the most well lit because he was, facing the crowd. The bass player and the lead singer guitarist, they sort of had their bodies at an angle, but the light was behind them, so they weren't lit. And then the singer had his hair long in the front, so it would cover his face when he sang. I don't know if that's intentional,
right?
Like that they do that on purpose, but you really did. It was like 3 instruments floating, and even the way that, again, intentional or not, it looked like the dude with the drumsticks. I thought maybe it was just my eyes. He's swinging those drumsticks so fast that they were just like these blurs of of like sound. You could tuck, 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 and you just see like the drumsticks move.
Right.
Where normally you see the whole drumstick, but this was like a like a lightsaber, dude.
Yeah.
Like it was really cool.
Yeah,
and the energy was great.
Energy was great, and back to the guitarist, lead vocalist. He plays a Rickenbacker, which you don't see that often, especially for heavier music, and it sounded great. So I just thought that was weird because you don't really see Rickenbacker guitars that much. I know pianos become the teeth; those guys use them, but you don't see it that often. And I was like, wow, all right, he pulled that off. Looked great.
Yeah,
sounded great. And another thing too, their merch table was interesting. I've been to a million shows.
Super impressed.
I was really impressed. And this reminds me, and this is why these guys are legit with we're one entity and they believe in the old school hardcore punk ethos and ethics. If you wanted to buy a t-shirt, they had t-shirts, all kinds of stuff, obviously, merch for sale, but they didn't have a price on it. And it was confusing a lot of people. Like, they're like, no, it's a donation, whatever you want to donate. I thought that was just amazing. Wow, these guys are all the way here from France, and they're not even going to put a price tag on any of their merchandise. Whatever you want to give, they're willing to, accept it and just give you, merch isn't cheap, and that's like their bread and butter. So I just thought that was super humble and just super original hardcore punk and just awesome. And the fact that, they gave us their time. Everybody's time is precious and valuable. That was great. And I thought it was really cool that we were able to do it post show, not before.
Right.
I don't know, because all that emotion and that energy is still there. And when we met with them in the green room of the Beat Kitchen, you could still see it in their eyes, and they were sweaty and wore out, and you could tell they pour their heart and soul into it. Right. So it was really a really neat vibe.
Yeah, they were they were stretching to try to stay loose because to not tighten up because they were going crazy during the show. Yeah. And it was cool that they gave us their time. It was very cool. And we walked up to make sure, and we asked, and the guy was like, first he's like, how long is it going to take? Because what they did say, what's important to them because of their the way that they do things and how it's very communal, and they want to speak to the fans face to face on the same level. Before they finished their last song, they said, this is our last song. When we're done, come talk to us. Everybody come talk to us. They were very, very welcoming. Mm-hmm. They wanted to talk to everyone, and they say that at every show. And so for us to walk up and for them to say, sure, let's just go downstairs and do it and knock it out, was very, very cool of them. And they were all really cool,
Very nice. And I reached out to them before the show, and they said yes, they were interested, and it just happened, organically, and that's really cool. And like I said, shout out to the Beat Kitchen. I love seeing shows there. Huge shout out to Death Wish Incorporated, or Death Wish Records, whatever you want to say. They've been very supportive. They've been reposting our stuff on Instagram, so we see that. We love that. Jake and Trey from Death Wish, thank you. And, moving forward, when there's more Death Wish artists, we'll definitely interview them as well in the near future. So
we'll find them.
We will find you. But yeah, thanks to Birds and Row, first and foremost. Shout out to the Beat Kitchen, because it's a lovely place to see a show. Decent burger, great beer.
Yeah.
Right? Stratton, you only had waters, though. You were our designated, so thank you.
I was a designated driver in a big old lamo.
No, but you had a lot of fun.
Oh, I had a great time.
And shout out to Birds and Row, Death Wish Records, and everybody enjoyed this interview. We had a great time. And
that was our first on-site, or how do you put that?
Yeah,
not on-site.
On-site interview, post-show. I mean, I don't know if a lot of interviews really go down like that. I mean, most interviews happen before the performance or during, if it's like a live aired thing, like they did on Audio Tree, and we talked a little bit and asked them about Audio Tree, which is in Chicago. So everybody subscribe to that YouTube channel and check out that Birds and Row performance from about a year ago.
It's and that whole channel and what they do is awesome. It is awesome. It gives me like I'm like, oh man, I want to do that. Yeah. It's super cool.
Super cool. But like I said, shout out to Birds and Row. Thank you for your time. Death Wish for the support. And Beat Kitchen. It's a great venue to see a show. So everybody please enjoy this interview. Adios.
Musically meditated.
Musically meditated. Musically meditated.
All right. My name is Joe Riley. This is Musically Meditated Podcast. Just got done watching an amazing set by Birds and Row. They are from France. I'm with them right now in the basement of Beat Kitchen. Real quick, guys, what part of France are you from exactly? What's the city called?
It's a city called Laval in western France. Like we often say, it's right at the beginning of the Brittany, which is like the western peninsula in France. So it's really like the easiest way to understand it is it's the French Iowa, pretty much. So it's a lot of fields and
farmland.
Yeah, farmland, dairy industry, biggest dairy industry in the world.
Right on, right on.
So that's it.
What's the French hardcore scene all about? Is there a scene?
I can't. In France? Yeah, in France, I wouldn't say there's proper scene. There are a lot of bands, but a scene, I don't think we can really talk about a scene like that. But
I mean, we still have like after a lot of tours and in different projects all together from Laval, we made friends in a lot of cities that we could see after a while that it was the same as in Laval. Like we could, discovering band. And in these bands, they play in a lot of bands as well, and in like a lot of cities. And I guess we can call it a scene in that way, but it's in different style of music altogether. But it's, I think, yeah, we like when when we want to tour, we know we will find a place to play in almost every proper, every useful, if I can say, city in France. So yeah. I guess.
You have to understand that France never had the 80s hardcore movement. So at this time we had like what we call alternative rock instead. Yeah. So we don't really have a hardcore scene in the way that DC's got a hardcore scene, for example, or something like that. It's more like a bunch of bands doing a bunch of different type of musics and trying to help each other, but yeah, it's not really like a proper network. And let's say
that's a perfect segue into my next question. What American hardcore bands influenced you guys?
The first one I would say would be Converge.
Okay,
Converge, More Than Life Is War. There was like a screamo band called Malady as well. That was a band from Virginia with members of Page 99.
Page 99, I love.
And Seed of Caterpillar. Dangerous.
Maybe Young Widows about the sound of them.
It's not hardcore, but like it's close to hardcore.
And this is your sixth time in the States, right? As far as touring?
Yeah.
And you guys toured before opening for Converge and Neurosis.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
That was huge.
Okay.
So it's like it was only 5 shows because we were like filling in for Amen-Ra that couldn't do the whole tour. And yeah, like we already toured with Converge in 2012, but this time was like a bit more bounding in a way that we were in the same tour bus. So it was a tour bus tour as well for the first time for us, which is kind of a weird experience when you're used to just having like, crammed vans and 12-hour drives.
Okay.
So that was a lot of new stuff, and seeing Converge and Neurosis play every night was just humbling, and yeah, it makes you feel like, oh, I can do that forever actually.
Awesome. What's your favorite Converge album if you guys had to pick one?
You Feel Me.
Yeah, me too.
You Fail Me?
You Feel Me.
Yeah. How about Jane Doe? You love Jane Doe as well?
Jane Doe is like a milestone in hardcore music, definitely. But I didn't discover. I discovered Converge with Jane Doe, but it was kind of it was not the first record that really clicked to me with Converge. Like, You Fail Me's got this vibe that none of the other records have. It's bluesy, it's dusty, it's
very dirty, it's very raunchy.
Yeah, and like the way they recorded vocals without, like putting the microphone in hands. So it's all very organic. And I don't know, it's like the whole vibe, like just the 2 first songs, they're like classic. They have to play them because they wouldn't be Converge without those songs.
Without those songs in the set. But yeah, the song You Fail Me is just, it's always a great motivational song.
Yeah.
If you want to lift weights or whatever it is that you want to do.
I don't do that, but
okay. But if however you want to get through your day instead of coffee, you could just put on that song for sure. As far as Death Wish goes, what was the relationship? How did that happen? Did Jacob from Death Wish reach out to you guys, or did someone from France show you Death Wish? How did that relationship happen?
Death Wish is actually 2 persons at the beginning, Trey McCarthy and Jake Bannon. And the funny thing is that they heard of us in 2 different ways. So We used to be on on a label called Vitral Records from LA, and our friend Jeremy Bohm from Touche Amore is from LA as well.
I love Jeremy.
And he's connected to Vitriol because he's been in, like, he loves all the bands, he loved the scene and everything. So he discovered us on that label and liked it, and he took our record and gave it to Trey. And then Trey discovered that actually Jake heard of us on the internet looking for bands, like looking for music on spots, on blogs. I mean, so like they both went into a conversation, I guess, where they said like, oh, we both like this band, so why not propose it? So they couldn't find an email address for us because it was kind of cryptic at the beginning of the band. Yeah. And so they contacted our European label at the time called Throat Runner Records. And yeah.
Throat Runner, real quick, isn't it, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but is it Cavalier or Cavalier? Calvaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like them.
So yeah, he plays in Calvaire.
Oh, really?
And Thomas as well, our sound engineer.
Oh, all right, right on. Small world, right?
Yeah. All the bands from Runner, right? All the bands from Laval. They have the same people in them. Like,
okay,
it's always like 10 members doing bands together. Really
awesome.
He was the singer of the band.
He was
the guy
the singer
doing Throat Runner. Yeah.
Okay.
Matthias Youngblood. That now is actually also Death Wish Europe. And lives in Laval actually now.
Oh, right on, yeah.
Plays in a Fange, if you maybe heard about it.
No.
It's just Fange.
What was that album? Was it Forceps that came out in like 2013, right? Yeah, that was a great album.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, that was really, that's crazy. I didn't know you guys were in that. I didn't know you were all part of the same thing, but that's really badass.
You know, that's why I was telling you about Laval.
Okay. All 16. As far as your new album goes, and I brought up Jane Doe, I really love the total package from the artwork to the different scenery for each single, like for each song. Was that your guys' idea, or who was the artist behind that with the photography and like with the art that I purchased today? Like I love the total package of the album. It means
one of us is a tattoo artist in the band, so he does all the drawings and stuff.
Okay.
And the artwork, we always wanted to do artworks ourselves, but sometimes you don't have the time. So we always have an idea and we propose it to someone. And for that album, we asked our friend Juliet Bates to do the photographs. And the result is just outstanding. I really love this photograph. I think it really looks like the album, really. And all the drawings inside we did it. And it was just like the whole idea was ours. We did like the basic illustrations and stuff, all the layout, but the photograph is Juliet Bates.
Juliet Bates, yeah. I love the artwork for it.
Thank you.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Any meaning behind that album cover you want to put out? Like, is there, it almost seems like someone's either leading into, like you're leading the woman into a dance or you're letting something go. That's what I get from it. Is that the meaning behind the album cover?
I think it's that and... maybe a lot of you can like in every songs you can relate to that part of the the two hands one in the other but in a different way on every songs, I guess.
For the artwork we had this idea of like, because we wanted this record to be a way to gather people, like, or try to gather people, because we feel that's a message that people need to hear today, because everything divides us in politics and everything else. So we wanted this record to be like, gathering more than dividing. And the first idea we had was that, a popular ball, I don't know, like dancing halls and
dance hall music.
Yeah, this type of shit. And we really like this idea where like people are dancing together, but they still have problems in life, but they don't want to deal with it right now because they're dancing, but they still have this in the corner of their mind. And so it's not all white or black, it's very gray
area.
And
right.
And so we thought we wanted something about, like, a lot of the lyrics talked about dancing and stuff, because I think it's kind of a way of picturing the relationship between people. You try to do things together. In dance sometimes you have like something that you do together, but sometimes you push
away
other,
and bring back.
That's kind of like the idea of the whole record that I was talking about. relationships between people when you try to do things together, and sometimes you don't understand each other, and this type of stuff.
And it was also kind of the opposite of the previous LP, because we found it cool to have hands again. Because do you see how it is, the Yumian violence?
Yes.
So it's more, I don't know,
Violence.
more violent, and here is more
togetherness,
more
a little bit more peaceful,
love
more love
than hate.
Yeah, because with the lyrics, Sretton and I, when we reviewed this a few weeks ago, I noticed there's a lot of emotional, like, relationship I get from it, maybe relationship problems, but then you're kind of combining political messages too, and like you mentioned earlier before or during the set, like, not all of us have to get together and get along. There is love and hate in relationships, so just embrace that. But we all are here together as one tonight, so let's enjoy it.
Because like it's really easy to go into this like very utopical way of saying like, peace and love everyone and this type of stuff. And I don't believe it really can happen. But what I try to say every night is that the matter is not love really. It's more the respect and the way you want to participate to a collective effort to make things better. Because we've seen in the last years that, or like last decades or last centuries, that politics are not voting for someone and wait for something to happen. Politics are actually everyday things where it depends on like how you treat people around you, how you build or destroy communities, how you try to make your own like city or community better, and so everyone can feel better, and then it can spread out, to other region or other places. And I think a lot of people tend to forget about that because we're always told, when you have elections, you're always told you have to vote right now. This is your duty and blah, blah, blah. And then you tend to forget that actually politics are way more than that. Like, I think everything we do is political, and every type of relationship you have is political as well. The way you treat
love is political. I love that, man. I love that. It's a good saying. But
and that's the point. Like, actually, this song was the first one we composed and wrote for the record, and it really guided the rest of the lyrics, because we were like, oh yeah, that's what we want to say. That's really like it emphasizes everything we want to say in this record. So then after that, we try to think about all the point of views, all the aspects of this type of speech. And, but like Love is Political was the very first one. And yeah, it's, I think it says everything. Is just, treat people, decently, and try to include them in your world rather than push them away.
Yeah. Even if they're different, not everybody's the same. Just embrace.
Yeah, definitely.
And then if you have your differences, just realize it. But as a community, just get together and,
yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, a lot of people would say we come from the same ground, like Western countries, but cultural differences are huge between the US and France, for example. But we are touring with a Canadian band in the US playing in front of like 30, 50, 100 people every night that are American, and still we succeed in communicating something, an emotion and maybe a motivation. Like, a lot of people come to us saying that, like tonight again, like someone's told me that your record arrived in my life right at the good moments when I needed this kind of motivation in my life. And I feel this is like the type of ambience that we try to put around our band, where it's like kind of a positive ambience, but not too, how would you say that, like utopic or,
Yeah. I follow you. Coming from me personally, I felt like it came into my life at a perfect time too.
Cool.
It really did. And Sretton over here too, he agrees. He's not really into as much as extreme music, but we broke it down together, and it came to me at the right time in my life. So I really appreciate your guys' art.
Oh, thank you.
Very much so.
Just like, speaking of that, it was really interesting tonight, by the way, because when we talked between the songs, it was like the perfect silence. And sometimes we can see that some people are listening, but there's also people talking. And tonight was really like in between songs, it was really like perfect silence for us to speak. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool. It's more, it makes us feel more comfortable to play it after we just spoke about it, because we know that people are going to be trying to understand why listening the songs, the meaning of it that we were just explaining before.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
And I feel like it's kind of a privilege that we have to be able to talk to people every night about what we feel. But sometimes I feel like it puts kind of a hierarchy, and that's something that we always try to break that. So that's why we ask people to come and talk with us after the show, because we don't have more things to say than people in the crowd, you know. We are all like, we're all one really, and we can all like discuss about things and have opinions and stuff. But I feel that when you see someone on stage not being that much comfortable, because we're not politicians, this is not our job, and but like, because we feel we have something to say, we want to say it, and you can see that we're not super comfortable saying it, but maybe it makes you feel like, oh, I can do that as well. And maybe tomorrow I don't know, at the coffee shop or whatever with your friends, you're going to be like, oh, I've got this idea or I've got this opinion, and maybe we could talk about it. And I hope this is something that we can bring as a motivation as well, and not be like, we have something to say, so shut up.
Yeah, like a division, you know, you're on Team Red or I'm on Team Blue. Like, no, we have to get together and as a community figure it out. And I like that, how you guys are open to the fans, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to just like go, like, that's what we're doing right now, but because there's an interview, but like, it's ridiculous to go straight to the green room and not see anyone. The punk scene always told us that there is no better person. Like, if you're in a band tonight, tomorrow you're going to be in the crowd watching the guys that were in the crowd playing now. You know, it's like kind of a circle or something. Is there's no hierarchy in the punk rock scene, or there shouldn't be any hierarchy of that like that. So we used to always play on the floor. Because we didn't like the fact that a stage divides us from the crowd. But like, now that there are more people to the show, it's hard to play on the floor. When people pay money, they want to see you play, obviously. So it's harder for us now. So we try to always tell people, please come and talk. Even if it's just about your dog or about your girlfriend or whatever, but like, let's just make it human. Because sometimes when you are among like 100 people or whatever, it really feels like, you know, it felt not pointless, but you can't feel the connection with the people that are actually saying something.
Right on. One thing you have to bring with you on tour from France that you have to have, all you guys. What is it that you missed? Like, you got to bring it with you. Is it a certain kind of food or clothing or
underwears?
Something? Underwear. All right.
Different shoes for playing.
Different shoes. Okay.
Books. Yeah.
A lot of books.
Like we had like 26-hour drives before coming here, like even more now, but like the first 2 days I've been like only driving and playing, and so if you don't have like something to, you know, something to read or something to do, you just get crazy.
Blowing mattresses.
Oh yeah, you need mattresses in the US. You need mattresses.
Okay.
So I don't know, like a lot of shit. Like, as I said, cultural differences are huge. We know that when we come to the US, it's going to be less comfortable for some reason, but it's going to be cool for other reason. For example, as we said, like, you need to find a place to sleep every night. When you're in Europe, the promoter finds a place to sleep for you, and so you don't have to deal with it. And most of the time it's beds, and you don't have to sleep on the floor. And so that's one of those cultural differences, you know, which we totally, it's all right. We totally embrace it, because you can't really complain about it.
Right.
But so, you have to bring your own shit and like sleeping bags and mattresses and stuff like that.
How about when you come to Chicago? What is Chicago a good experience for you guys?
Always. Like the 2 last times we played here were at Subterranean downstairs.
Okay.
The twice sold out shows, with like super good bands like Lord Snow there's a vibe in Chicago that we really like. We were kind of bummed out because we wanted to arrive earlier today, but we needed to sleep, and then you have to drive for like 6 hours. And
cool.
But yeah, we really love it. A lot of good vegan food. So yeah.
Right on. How was the Audio Tree experience? Because that's on YouTube. I thought it was awesome.
It was really cool because we discovered a lot of bands from it. So, being there was pretty crazy for us.
Yeah.
And the people there are really cool, and makes you feel, not stressed out by the thing you have to do, because, people are going to be watching or listening. And it's really cool. Like, it's for us, it was a very cool highlight of the last tour doing this, because it's also different when you're in your tour routine to just drive and play a show in a venue, and playing during the day in the studio. It was different.
Yeah, then having to go out at night and do it at the same time, right? Yeah, on the same day.
So, pretty interesting, and a good challenge as well. Because it's
how's your voice feel after doing that 2 days?
Screaming at 2 p.m. It's always cool on tour.
Right on. I got two more things real quick. If you had to pick between the Chicago White Sox or the Chicago Cubs, who's it going to be?
Chicago Bulls. We don't follow American sport.
The White Sox, huh?
White Sox baseball, right?
Yeah, we have two baseball teams.
Okay, that's okay.
I don't even know. Sorry.
No, I knew the White Sox from like the logo is like legendary, but I didn't know about the Cubs that much. Yeah. I used to play a PlayStation 2 game, like baseball game, but after 5 hours, you're like, I'm losing my time.
Right. So. Cool, man. Congratulations on the World Cup, too.
Yeah. And that's the same. We don't really follow.
You don't follow no sports? I don't know.
Yeah, we followed, you can't not follow it. Like,
right.
It's happening anyway. Right. But it's, we're not pretty into that. So.
Cool.
When they won the World Cup, it was kind of a revolution in the streets in our hometown. It was like, crazy. It was ridiculous. We had to leave our apartment because it was getting so annoying.
Wow.
We had to go out because it was like so many people being like, what? Like, we didn't do anything, but we won. Like, what?
we were actually flying from Paris to here in the United States for the last tour. The very next day of the final. So
everyone this summer was like, "Hey, congratulations on the World Cup!" I was like,
you guys like, I don't care. Who cares?
I don't care. I didn't do much.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time, man. Thanks for tonight. It was great. I love this album. It's definitely going to be like in my top 5, if not my favorite. So
cool.
Thank you for your art. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Take care.
All right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right.
I'm musically meditated. That's right. I'm musically meditated.
Producer my ass over there.